was just a good example. I'm not paying you guys anything. I don't
True.
think.
Wait, what?
So
Wait a minute.
do we
Gary,
need to
that
end it now? I'm
was that
sorry.
in the, I'm so
Oh
sorry.
no.
And then with that
Oh no.
note, hi everyone, welcome to the Biz Dev Podcast, the podcast about developing your business. I'm David Baxter, your host, joined per usual by Mr. Gary Voigt. What's up, man?
Hello, how are you today?
I cannot complain. I just got back from vacation, so life is good, man. Life is good. I woke up to only 400 emails, which was fun. It is amazing when you see a whole week of emails and realize how few actually matter.
There's only 5 that you
Yeah,
need.
like there's like a few that you actually have to push reply to. And that is so interesting to me because how much does email consume your brain space, right? You're checking it just in case one of those 5 for the week might have landed in your inbox. It's very interesting when you get perspective on that. I knew a guy, and I'm going off the rails already. I knew a guy who has, and I might have mentioned this before, but when he goes out of town, his out of office message is, I'm out of town. I am not checking my messages, and I will not check my messages. If you need to get a hold of me when I get back, email me then. Basically, he gets back in, deletes everything that came in, and starts fresh. And I'm like, that is ballsy. Because I would have missed those 5, right? And so I go through all the headache for 5 emails that were worth it. And in all honesty, those 5 emails were from people I know and would have emailed me again today. Anyway, more importantly, we are joined by Evan Boyer, who is the founder and CEO of Leaders PR. Hello, Mr. Evan. How are you?
Hey Dave. I'm doing well. How are you?
I cannot complain. I really just can't. I'm a little tired. We flew home from New York yesterday, and if anybody on the East Coast, the entire East Coast knows, all of the East Coast was just a big soup of nasty, and it was the craziest thing. So we're flying home, and our pilot says, we're on the runway, we're going to take off, but there are 20 airplanes in front of us. And we get to this turn, and now this was JFK, so it's a big airport, but we look down the line and there's just plane after plane. I've never seen such a thing. It was like they were all little kindergartners waiting to go out to the playground. And there were 15 behind us. It was the craziest thing. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. All right, Evan, you are exciting because you just recently launched your company. And that is you are in the slog. And
So much in the slog. So much in the slog. This is week number 8 or 9. I'm not really sure which.
nice.
You're only in the SL part of the slog. You haven't even got to O yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've completed the S, actually.
Oh, okay.
So how does it feel? Okay, so for those who don't know, the slog is our little word for the time period of a new business from the time you open to the time anyone cares. And that can be anywhere from weeks to years. We've seen people do it almost instantly, which is highly unusual, but very cool to hear about. And then most people, it's at least a year, if not more. So you're 8 weeks in. Now you're a PR company, so it's even more interesting because your job is to get people to care. Like that is your whole shtick. So no pressure. It's kind of like me having an ugly website. If I have an ugly website, we're screwed, right? So if you can't get people to understand and care that Leaders PR exists, you're screwed. So how's that going?
Yeah, it's very meta. You're right. This is the 3rd, maybe 4th podcast that I've been on since I launched at the beginning of August. So
that's pretty.
I'm trying to make the rounds. Yeah, I'm trying to make the rounds and
it's
do
like
a little bit of PR
rounds,
for myself.
Launching a movie, going to, are we Kimmel? Are we Fallon? Who are we, Gary? Probably the one that got canceled that was really late.
I was going to say, we're Conan on TNT after he got booted back off of it. Don't get me wrong, Conan's still the best, but yeah, not the best slot.
Yeah, it's been a lot of trying to PR myself, and I was actually just on a podcast about that a couple of weeks ago. It's actually called PR Yourself.
So you've been doing PR for a long time. Let me make that clear. This isn't something you just randomly decided to do on a whim. So
That's right.
With all that experience, and it's years, if you look at your history, it's at least a decade. What have you learned PRing yourself that you didn't know from your 10 years? Because it is different. Like an example for us is I have built dozens of startups or worked with dozens of startups to design and build them, right? but we are launching our own. So I'm sitting on the other side of the table and I'm learning so much about that side of the table. So now you're PRing yourself. You're now on the other side of that table. How's it feel? And what are you learning?
It's really interesting having never been on this side of the table. And the one thing that I can say that has, it's just going to sound bad because I'm going to say it surprised me, but when I really should say, oh yeah, of course, it
Sure.
works. The work that I do works, and it's working for me. And a lot of people will look at PR or talk about PR. Oh, that's a nice to have. You don't really need that. You just have a great website or great marketing or whatever the thing is, great sales. That can be enough, and PR is extra. So PR is what I know. And so that's what I started with, as I'm trying to get myself out there in the world. And the amount of response that I've had and the amount of demand that I've been able to generate just doing what I know in the last couple months has been tremendous.
So pretend I'm an idiot. Shut up, Gary. I know marketing to a point. I'm not a marketer by any stretch, but I understand it. I have Christy who works for us that is marketing. What is the difference between PR and marketing?
It's a great question. We get that a lot. What I do, I think a lot of people would consider, and I would agree with them, a subset of marketing, but it has much more to do with your ability to create a story and then earn attention around that story. So rather than buy it or pay for nicks and knacks to help you promote yourself, it really is based on the quality of the story that you're able to tell that gets you attention in media, with influencers, and in some cases on podcasts like we're doing now. But was just a good example. I'm not paying you guys anything. I don't think.
Wait, what?
So
wait a minute.
Do we need to end it now? I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Oh no.
And then with that,
oh no.
no.
But
no, go ahead.
It's all about your ability to earn attention.
Okay, let me explain how I understand PR. Something happens, something notable. You have a PR firm, tell as many people as possible that something happened. Is that oversimplistic or is that pretty spot on?
Component of it.
Okay. So what I imagine, like the way I see it is if we hired a PR firm, which we've never done, if we hired a PR firm, like if we went live with a big new client and they had us and we wanted to tell everybody about it, a PR firm could help with that, right? That's as opposed to marketing where we would put it on our website. We might put it on LinkedIn, right? That's our social network doing this thing. And we would let people know, hey, look, we had a cool new client. But PR would be saying, hey, we're going to try to get other people who media, traditional media, other things, whatever, a wider net to talk about your big event. Is that accurate or am I still?
Yeah. So you're using, it's definitely a component of it. And you're using media to be able to spread awareness and visibility for your story to reach people that you otherwise would not be able to reach. And they see that media also as trustworthy and credible, and they rely on media for their news and information. So tapping into that source as a place to tell them your story is a big part of what it's about. I would also say the thing that I think a lot of people miss when they talk about PR is it's not entirely about promoting a thing. Like you said, something happens and we want to tell people about it. It's also about thought leadership and having a perspective, an opinion, a reaction to things that are happening in the world. Don't want to go too deep here with you guys' business because I don't know it super intimately, but something happens in the world of web development, website design, and you see this, David, and you have an idea about how it might evolve or progress over time, or something that you're doing within your company. You're already ahead of the curve. You're saying, we saw this coming months ago and we've gotten ahead of it in this way. And somebody might want to talk to you about that. And it's a way to position yourself as an expert in your field. So that's a lot of what I do.
So let's break that down. I joke with Gary that I use this podcast just as free consulting. And so I'll use me because that's what I'm going to do. We have, let's say we tried to do that. Like what you just described, we tried to do that through our marketing arm, right? Christy is trying to turn me into a thought leader. It's one of the reasons why this podcast exists. Whether I am or not is totally up to whoever wants to hear that. But this is an effort to do that, right? I've been doing this a long time. Maybe I have something to say, right? So we're doing that through LinkedIn, like I mentioned, through our socials, through our podcast, through our blog posts that we do twice a week, that consolidates our knowledge and puts it out there. Practically speaking, what are you doing to do that same thing, trying to establish yourself, using yourself as a leader? Does your practical look the same, or are there other avenues that we just can't do?
So there are components of it that look the same: posting on LinkedIn, writing blogs, all those sorts of things. I would consider all of those owned media. You're owning the channel on which your thoughts and your perspectives and your opinions. The element that I add, that I provide to my clients, is earning that. So rather than it being, hey, come see us, come to our site, or come to our LinkedIn and read what we have to say, or come to our podcast even, it's, I have a thought or an opinion or perspective, or something's happening that's really interesting, and I'm going to tell somebody else, ideally media, right, about this. And they're going to say, I need to have that thought or opinion or perspective to share with my audience. And so you've earned that attention from them rather than owning it and bringing it into your own channel.
Obviously, they're not reading my blog, right? Let's say WRAL, which is just one of the media things around our area. WRAL, and that's maybe Forbes magazine or Fortune. I know there's a million different ways of media nowadays, but let's just say WRAL because they're a local one. They're never going to read my blog, right? So where are you going that they are reading, that they go, oh, Evan does know what he's talking about. Let's have him help us do X, right? Do you have a specific avenue you go down that's not your media, but they're paying attention to? Does that make sense?
I think, again, it's so the sauce that I have, that I provide, that a lot of PR firms provide, or will say that they do, is developing a narrative or a set of messages or story in such a way that it becomes interesting to a WRAL or a Forbes or whoever the writer, editor, reporter, broadcaster is. Mm-hmm. So that's really what I'm paid to do, is to come up with those angles that are interesting to them. And then if you were my client, then I would connect you with them, and I would say, David has a really interesting perspective about XYZ topic, and you should hear that from him. And it might be something that you've already said on your podcast, but like you just pointed out, they're not listening to your podcast.
Sure.
So it's an opportunity for you to get in front of different audiences, and then through earning that attention, they're more likely to become followers of you, customers of you, because now they know who you are after watching you show up on WRAL for 45 seconds.
How much of your world is succeeding in your clients because of your relationships? I know such and such at WRAL, or I know this person over at Forbes or whatever, and I have a relationship, and they're going to listen to me because I've been doing this for 10 plus years, and they know I'm not going to give them crap. Mm-hmm. That's a powerful moat that you could build, is, look, I know everybody. Is that a component of your business, to have those media relations?
For sure. But I would say that a lot of people think that's where it ends. Oh, Evan knows this reporter from the Wall Street Journal or TechCrunch or WRAL. And whether I do or not, it does help to have the connections and to know them. But whether I do or not, if I'm not telling a story worth hearing, they're not going to pay attention to me either way. And I've had that happen time and time again as I'm pitching them via email, phone, carrier pigeon, X, Twitter, whatever. And I've used all of those different methods, including the carrier pigeon, to get in touch with media. But they're only going to respond to the things that are interesting to them, most importantly, interesting to their audience.
So where do you, if you're coming in and a company wants to hire you, but they already have a marketing person, maybe their name's Christy, whatever, where do you're stepping right on her toes, right? If theoretically her name was Christy, if you would be stepping right on their toes. So I get to see there's some tension there. You're bringing something to the table that theoretically she can't or doesn't or whatever. And now I'm not saying Christy doesn't, because she's amazing, but I'm just like, how do you let them do their job and then you do your job? Because they want to build a story. They want to build a brand. They want to make me interesting, for instance.
Uh-huh.
No. But then you're like, but I'm going to do it differently, right? Now it's, you know what I'm saying? Like I could see that getting tense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the bad relationships are like that. And I've been in plenty of situations like that where there's friction there and it's don't get in my way. I'm going to do this thing my way. But best ones actually work differently. And I think it's the situation usually where the marketing person says, okay, I know the boundaries that I'm going to play in. I'm going to set up this podcast. I'm going to write blogs. I'm going to do all the things that help us grow our business through our own channels. And then we also need a little bit of Evan's special sauce to add on top of that. And I think where that works best also is if you have some cohesion around what are the central stories of the organization. What are the things that you know that you do best? What are your leaders' passions, perspectives, opinions? And how can we take those things and use them to benefit our own media, our paid media, if you're doing that, if you're buying ads and things like that, if you're buying social ads, for example. And then my part is more around earned.
So that brings up a good question. At what point does a company, you mentioned they think of you later, but when should a company bring PR in? Do I need to be buying ads? Do I need, because that's a threshold, right? Ads are not cheap. Buying ads is not cheap. They can be cheaper, but if you're buying, I was at the airport and there's always this one finance dude who buys the airport ads while you're standing there waiting for your bags. He's been there for a decade or more. You all know him.
Yeah.
If you're from this area, you've seen those things. Those are not cheap. And he's been doing them forever. They're like $6,000 to $8,000 a month. I've looked into them, and we quickly ran away from them. However, they're expensive, and he's been doing them for years and years. So, do you have to be of a size where, hey, you need some Google ads? You need to have at least $1,000 a month of Google stuff. I'm making a number up, whatever it is. But is there a threshold before PR is useful because you can now bring together all these sources, or you're like, hey, you're brand new, we can help there too? Like, where do you become effective?
I like working with the brand new, and that's where I've started to build my business over the last couple months, especially is I have a lot of bootstrap founders, probably 3 or 4 in my stable right now who are not paying for any advertising, but they have a very interesting story to tell. And they're asking me to shape that in such a way that it becomes interesting so that they can earn media attention. And I think over the course of my career, one of the things that I would argue is PR, especially for young companies like that, could be one of the most cost-effective things that you can do if you can do it right, if you can do it well, because you're not having to go and spend $8,000 for an ad that people see, want, and run away from. If I can get your origin story shaped and then told by media in such a way that you can then repurpose it also for social media on your own channels, and then be able to use that as a marker of credibility. Hey, WRAL thought I was interesting enough. Speak with me, try to learn about me, my story, my business, all those sorts of things carries a certain amount of weight. I think one of the places too where it gets really interesting is how AI search is working now, because there's a lot of data about how third-party credibility and earned media are really important in AI search. And if you don't have those things moving forward, it becomes going to become harder to gain the awareness and the visibility that you might have been able to do 5, 10, 15 years ago through SEO.
I just heard a podcast on that. They call it AEO, answering engine optimization.
Yes.
All right, man. Cool. There's several terms. They haven't coalesced around a term, but the one I like, this guy was saying AEO was his favorite because the other one I think is something like chat. And they were like, or it was chat engine optimization, whatever. I can't remember. Okay. But he was like, that seemed too narrow because this is going to be much bigger when all things are done. And they're answering engines. They might be chat, they might be other things, but their job is now to answer rather than search. And anyway, I thought that was very interesting. And it's like, here's terms that are coming. Oh, these are new, but they're going to be the new SEO eventually.
Yeah, and you're right. We have not coalesced around a term. I've been using GEO for generative
engine. No,
I don't know. jury's still out.
Yeah, I mean, it will be a term.
I have a question that kind of leads into what you were saying about working with startups. And it just, an idea I thought of was a lot of PR in my mind also lends itself to like reputation management and reputation growth, not just brand management, but like you were saying, the story behind that brand or the people behind that brand. And I'm starting to think that if you're working with startups and crafting that narrative from the beginning, it's probably a big value for them to have going forward later on with the social media channels and stuff like that afterwards, because they already have this like hook, this like interesting little established identity that you're creating.
It's
Do
a
you
really
also
great.
do reputation management and stuff like that?
Yes, absolutely. It's a big part of it. And I think that kind of gets pushed to the side when you talk about PR and you start going down the road that David and I just went down, which is how does it work with marketing? And we talk a lot about earned media, right? But also building your reputation and your story in such a way that, if something bad happens or you have an issue or a crisis, you're able to manage that effectively and maintain trust with your stakeholders. So not everybody just jumps ship or says, oh yeah, that's a crappy brand, I don't want to work with them anymore. But they understand a little bit more about you, that they feel like they have a connection and are willing to stick with you longer if something doesn't go exactly the way it's planned.
Yeah, ratings and reviews now, they can be a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
If one person is upset with you, it seems like it could be pretty detrimental if they're hitting the right channels with that.
Yeah,
That's a strategy too.
We have a 5.0 Google, and we asked our clients, oh, hey, we did a good job. Would you like to give it to us? And I'm always scared they're going to be like 4.5. And that alone would drop us below our perfect 5. That sounds so silly, but like my wife, perfect example of on Airbnb, she won't look at you as an Airbnb unless I think you're 4.8 and higher, which is almost perfect. And that's what's so funny. Like when you go to an Airbnb, they'll have a thing on the fridge. It says 3 means you want to set our house on fire. 4 means everything was crappy. 5 means it was adequate. Wait, when did that become the standard? But because those have so much power. And I find it so interesting. I find that whole rating thing very interesting. Gary said something that reminded me. Did you ever see that show Scandal? Well, it was on ABC for years.
Kerry Washington.
Yes. And she was the founder of a PR firm.
Yeah.
And she was their fixer, specifically the president's fixer for whatever reason. And that was just so interesting because that's like the PR firm is like the fixer. Oh, I did something bad. It's about to come out. I need you to spin it. I need you to change the narrative of whatever bad thing happened to make it not as bad. Is that all PR firms? Do they all do that? Or is that a specific kind? Hey, I'm the fixer type rather than I'm just the other stuff. Because I could get skeezy real quick. And I'm guessing that's a line some people draw.
Yeah, I think most PR firms will tell you that they do that's within their wheelhouse. I can tell you that's actually not true. And you need a specialized crisis and issues management firm. If you're really dealing with a situation like that, you want that sort of expertise in your corner.
Which is so strange. I know certain companies, once you get to a certain size, bad things happen even if they're not true. That's just a part of your reality. You're going to get sued and someone's going to say something bad about you when you're a certain size of a company. It's going to happen. And I get that. But there's also the stories of you really did do something bad and I need you to make sure it doesn't look as bad. And that's where the fixer comes in.
Big Pixel builds world-class custom software and amazing apps. Our team of pros puts passion into every one of our projects. Our design-infused development leans heavily on delivering a great experience for our clients and their clients. From startups to enterprises, we can help craft your ideas into real-world products that help your business do better business.
So go back 10 years. What made you want to get into PR to begin with?
And so I always like to write, and I wrote a lot when I was younger, and I still have a mentor who was a career journalist, investigative journalist, lives in Durham, wrote for a number of different papers and did freelance forever. And I remember it's probably 16, 17. And I asked him one day, how much do you make in a year? And the answer was not a lot. And I said, oh, I'm not sure if I want to do that and go to God knows where, Louisiana or somewhere out in the Midwest where nobody lives and do reporting and make not very much money. So what can I do to keep this skill sharp and do something that I enjoy doing without my career path being? So I was introduced to communications, PR, where I can write in a more corporate setting. I like the variety of agency. So I picked up on that pretty early on when I was in school, and I have my degree from NC State in public relations and communication. And that was one of the things that was shown to me was you can be in an agency where you work on a number of different clients. And I was like, oh, this is almost like being a journalist and being able to report on different stories or follow different beats. I have a tech client and healthcare client and a real estate client. I can explore those different areas of business. And so that's the path that I followed. I've worked in agency my whole career, all different sizes, and was most recently a global firm. But I think it all began for me with just a passion for writing and storytelling and being able to work with people, hear and understand their stories.
What made you take the leap from a global agency to your own thing?
A couple different things. I think it's a really loaded question, Gary. A couple different things. I think, not to get too deep in the weeds on Fleischman Hillard, which is where I was at, but they're owned by a holding company called Omnicom. And Omnicom right now is going through a merger they're the second largest ad agency holding company in the world, and they're merging with number 4 right now. And so that's creating a lot of change in the industry and within the firms. So it was definitely a piece of that factored into the decision. But then just always been a pretty independent person and interested in doing things my own way. And I felt like now was a really good opportunity to try that out. And it's been equally, I think, liberating and terrifying to not have somebody telling me what to do and knowing that it's all on me to bring in the bacon at the end of the day. But I feel like I have really good experience through all of the different agencies that I've worked at, clients that I've worked for. I think I just gained just enough confidence to be able to say, okay, I can do this for myself.
I actually had a similar situation. I worked for a giant media company in like their marketing and advertising design part or whatever. And yeah, that media, the industry just kept changing and kept changing. And similar to you, I had enough of a reputation with clients and enough confidence to go on my own and just try to give it a try as much as I can. So I was freelance for a while, and then David beat me down into submission. But
That's right.
I'm sorry about that.
no, it's fine.
He's really regretting
It's
that
fine.
decision.
I
4
can
years
tell.
later.
Yeah, he hasn't smiled the whole time. It looks really
Not
down
at
on
all.
the dumps here. Think about that, David.
He's too happy, clearly. We must change things. How? So you say, okay, you leave from the big company, you're 2 months in. Obviously, you don't regret it yet. But how has sitting on this side of the table, running your own business in the slog, how has the reality measured up to your expectations right before you jumped off? You know what I'm saying? You had a dream in mind. You had this is how it's gonna work. How's reality for you?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but as I was jumping, I had a client lined up, a small one. And probably about a week after I jumped, we cut the cord. It was bad fit from the start. And so I'm sitting there after being out on my own for a week, and I had nothing. So this is the very end of July. And I'm thinking, okay, I've planned for this. I'm anticipating there being a period of me having to maybe dip into savings or do whatever to be able to build my business. And then probably 3 weeks later, I got a client that was for half of my time, probably my corporate salary replacement for. And since then I have added 7 other clients. So in every way, it has exceeded my expectations. I was not anticipating being in a position where I would be looking for contract help. I was not anticipating being in a position where I was thinking about potentially hiring full time. And then the response to the work that I've delivered in the short time from the clients that I've had has been really incredible. I had a really excellent meeting with a group I've been with for maybe a little over a month, or maybe almost two, with their CMO, where she's basically saying, we feel very fortunate to have found you in this way. We were working with a large agency before, and now we have you as a freelance contractor. And imagine if the large agency had been able to deliver this kind of work. Hearing things like that from people who matter is very validating.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thanks so much.
So you're talking about contractors and stuff like that. What is your plan for growth? I've said my story several times where I thought, because I was a horrible business person, I thought that the only way to grow was to work your people. I had two developers and a project manager at the time. I had this thought. And my thought was you had to work them like 3 people, and then you get to the enough where you hire the third person, then you work those 3 like 4, and that's how you grow. Again, bad business, don't do that. But the way I eventually solved that, at least in the short term, was contractors to, hey, we have a short-term project, bringing a contractor. It's 3 months of work. It's not a year, whatever. And that helped us grow quite a bit for a while. And now we're almost coming back full circle. Now we're only internal again. What is your plan for growth? Do you see yourself using some contractor love, or just shouldering it until you can hire someone, and then shouldering it until you can hire someone? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I've learned through, I said week 8 or week 9, I've learned through a few, probably 100-hour weeks at this point, that shouldering it is not the way to go. Although I am having to do like my fair share of that right now. So it's a really interesting situation, because I think even at the time when I talked to Christy about coming on with you guys, I may have had the one client, probably not even. And so I've just basically thrown my business plan out, because my vision for the first year or 2 or maybe even 3 years of this was just going to be, okay, well, piddle around on my own and try to make a little bit of money and see how it goes. And if I have some low times, that's fine. I'm prepared for that. And I'm 60 days in roughly. And it's just, okay, I guess I'm an agency now, because I have more work than I individually can handle. So for now, it's contractors and me doing a lot. And as soon as I can get some more solidity and some longer term contracts and be able to see a longer horizon line, and I'm sure I'll be calling you up, David, and asking you how you changed your business mindset, because I also don't want to be the person who's driving the whip to work as long and as hard as possible.
All
I
those
don't
people
enjoy that
quit
myself.
within a month. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's just, don't do that. No, it's very cool. Your slog sounds like it's going to be a lot better than my slog was. My slog was at least 18 months, if not. In some ways, and one of our guests a while ago said, I don't know if you ever get out of the slog. Your slog just changes. And there is some truth to that. I think at some point you're large enough that you can probably safely say that. But it's not like it ever, at least as a small agency, we're just a little ahead of you there, right? You still got to go kill it and drag it back to the cave. That doesn't change until you have one heck of a foundation, right? Where you can have salespeople go out. That's one of the things that I find with all professional services, whether you're marketing, development, PR, whatever. No one's going to sell your service like you do, because they probably don't know how to do it like you do. And everything you do to a certain extent is custom to a point. Oh, your company's different, so I'm going to PR different, right? And that's true for anything. So it's not a widget, right? I can sell an iPhone because I can learn everything about an iPhone, and I don't have to know how it was built. I just need to, this is what it does, right? And I'm going to sell you an iPhone every year. My service changes every time, by definition. That slog just is a never-changing beast. And that's where I think a lot of agencies really start to grind out, and they try to get out eventually. Oh, I'll just sell or whatever. And very common. A lot of people come and go. But I'm now rambling again. Gary, do your thing.
All right, Evan, in the beginning of the slog, but it doesn't sound like it's really that painful. So
Yeah.
from your
I really hope
perspective,
this
So
gets
that-
harder for you and then come
Yeah.
back.
So the interesting thing
Suffer
about
more.
it is it's so new that I'm wondering, what if the bottom just falls out? Is it going to be like next week I'm going to wake up and I think I have 8 clients right now looking over at my board. What if they all decide no more next week? What do I do then? And I know that's not really living in reality, and David, you probably, I'm hoping, can relate to this a little bit. There's always that little nag in your brain, or does that go away? What do
does
you think?
David ever feel fear?
Shut up, man. No. I'm 12 years in, and I can say no. It does get better. Like, again, my slog was much longer than yours, so yours, the timelines wouldn't work. But to me, I think when it comes to the fear starts to shrink when you're past, like right now, you're probably killing it for 1 month, right? I've got a month of work. I'm good. I've got 2 months of work. I'm good. I've got 3. That's a big milestone. Now, I got 3 months of work. Like I can see, starting to have year-long contracts. It's a 3-month project. It's a year-long contract. Once you can start foreseeing 6 months and further, the fear drops. When it gets down to under that, because now there's urgency to killing it and dragging it back. And then payroll is it is the never-ending drumbeat. I remember back when our payroll was $15,000 a month. And I was like, how the hell am I going to do this? Oh my gosh. Our payroll is many times larger than that now.
Mhm.
And I had that same fear, right? Even though our clients are bigger, everything's bigger, but it's still there. That doesn't go away, I think, until you can forecast that at this rate, unless something crazy happens, like my big client leaves me unexpectedly, which if you're doing your clients right, that should never happen. They go away, but they shouldn't disappear, right? Your good clients, they're going to ramp down, as it were, right? Hey, in 3 months, I'm going to have to shrink down some. Okay, that sucks, but we can deal with that rather than, I'm out, right? That's, once you start building those kinds of relationships, the fear does get better. But it's, again, for me, that took years. I didn't take my first vacation for 5 years.
Wow.
I couldn't take a vacation for 5 years. And I just did that math the other day. Carl, he's still with me. He's my director of operations. He was the first employee that allowed me to step away. And I was scared to hell, scared to death to take that vacation. But it worked, right? And last year I was able to take a 2-week vacation, which was crazy to me. I'd never been able to do it. And so it takes time. That's 11 years to get to that point. But it does get better. And I love every day, even though it's hard, right? I think that's also part of the entrepreneur spirit, is that some of the hard is what makes it great. Does that make sense?
1,000%.
All right, Evan, we ask everybody that comes on the show the same question at the end. It's going to be different for you, I'm assuming, since you're new to this. So what are your top 3 pieces of advice to give to a new entrepreneur or someone starting their new business?
Don't overthink it. One, I think I went into this, I tried to do all of the spreadsheets and forecasting and napkin math as I possibly could, and none of it really mattered. I think the only thing that really mattered is that I was going to do it, and I was committed to that. So not overthinking it. Seeking help. I've always been a super independent person, like to do things on my own, don't love asking for help. And I do it more now than I've ever done it before. And I'm really glad, because I've met some crazy smart people who are willing to share their experience and provide me with guidance. And most of it is free. And that's a really incredible thing. And then the third thing would be just to have some self-belief. I think for me, just thinking about how long I was in agency, and just the idea that I am here for a reason, and I'm doing this for a reason, and I've had success in my career for a reason, and trying to carry that with me and believing that I could do it rather than wondering. But to the second point, I think is particularly important, seeking help. I'm super grateful for everybody who's given me their time or allowed me to bend their ear about problems that I've been facing and over the last 60 days and even before that. the most important thing.
Solid advice. Now, if anybody wants to learn more about you or Leaders PR, where's the best place to find you?
The website is leaderspr.com, and I stay pretty active on LinkedIn as well. You can find me LinkedIn /Evan Warrior.
All right. We'll put the links in the show notes too, so they'll be ready for anybody who wants to click on them.
Amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Evan. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate your time and your answers.
Thank you, guys.
And on that note, we are out. We will be back next week, everybody. We'll talk to you then. Bye.
That wraps up this episode of the BizDev Podcast. And this time you get me, Jen Baxter, co-owner of Big Pixel and David's wife. Yep, I finally took the mic, or wrestled it, away from David. BizDev is a production of Big Pixel, a US-based provider of UX design, strategy, and custom software. This podcast is edited by audio whiz Matt McCracken and Christy Pronto, marketing guru for Big Pixel. Want to connect? Shoot us an email at hello@thebigpixel.net or find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, X, and LinkedIn.